Peace and blessings to you all. My name is Lester Young. I'm a transformational speaker and a coach and an author, where I help individuals turn their setbacks into comebacks by helping them change their mindset, their behavior choices, which brings about a transformation in their lives. This is a continuation of my series, How to Support Your Loved One After Incarceration. And today I'd like to just share with you all about tip number 2, and that's giving your loved one space after incarceration. Like, space is so important. And I know that when individuals, when they're released from prison, they're excited, their family's excited, and they want to just love on their loved one. They want to be up under that person for whatever period of time. But for me, and I share my story, being that I was in prison from the age of 19 to 41 years old, I've never really had time for myself. Meaning that in prison, you're stuck in this small cell. And I always say, think about like the most modest bathroom that you may have in your home. It's a sink, toilet, and a bathtub or a walk-in shower, however. But think about where that shower or that bathtub is. Think about someone putting a bed there. And as soon as you roll out of the bed, you have your toilet. And then from there, you go to your sink. And then you may have an opportunity to walk to the door to look out the door. That's been the life that I lived for 22 years in a small confinement, where most of my days, depending upon what was going on in the prison at that time, majority of my time was spent in that small space. Or, I remember my last 10 years of my incarceration, it was a lot of stuff taking place at this particular institution where we weren't allowed to go on the rec field. We weren't allowed to go outside. So it's like the only time you would actually go outside is when you're going to eat, whether breakfast, lunch, or dinner. For exercising and any other activities at that time, for me at this institution I was housed at, we didn't have that privilege to go outside like we wanted to. So it always felt like you was just surrounded with people every day. Every day you're surrounded with noise in prison. You have a roommate where you really have very, very rare do you have privacy in this room because of the roommate situation in prison. Officers can come in your room at any period of time to look at your personal property, read your mail. It was in prison. There's no privacy in prison. So, I think it was healthy for me. It was healthy for me my first few months when I got out of prison to have some time to myself, like allow me to have space to walk by myself, allow me to be able to sit in a room by myself. Like I said, it's normal that family members, when their loved one come home, they want to celebrate, they want to love on them, but some individuals don't really want to tell their story of what they experienced in prison when it came down to space. Like how limited space was for them, that they couldn't even use the bathroom in peace because guess what? Your roommate was right there. Your roommate, you using the bathroom, your roommate's like literally right there, or you're laying in the bed and you turn over, your roommate's sitting on the toilet. It's no privacy in prison. And on top of that, with this privacy, officers, when they have like what is called shakedowns in prison, the officers come in and when they do a script search, now you're required to take all your clothes off and stand before another individual, a man, naked. Like there's no privacy. And then you're standing there and your roommate's standing there in the same position, naked or in a pair of boxers. So there's no privacy. There's no privacy there. So when a person comes home, I think that is key that they have an opportunity, just give them that freedom to just walk, and allow them to walk in peace. What I mean by that, don't feel like you need to talk to them all the time, because they just need to process the fact that they're home, that life, prison life is behind them, and they just need to live in that moment. And that moment comes by just giving your loved one space. Give them the space just to walk. Give them the space to sit in the room by themselves and not feeling pressured to answer to anyone. Because the routine in prison, it's still there. Like a quick story. I remember even like when I got out of prison, the times where in prison they do head counts every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, where they're making sure that everyone's is accounted for in prison. So like 3:30 is a late afternoon count in the prison. You know, for a while when I got out of prison at 3:30, I would find myself looking at my watch, or it's crazy, but I would find myself looking at that watch for 3:30, and I would start looking. If I was sitting in the house, it's almost like unconsciously I was finding myself to go in a room, because a count time meaning you had to go in your room and wait for the officers to come by, and you show them your prison ID, and they count you, and then they go on. They go to the next door. So walking out of prison, I was so conditioned for count times. I was so conditioned for 3:30 count, 10 o'clock count, 7:30 count. I was so conditioned that when those times came up, it's like something in me, like that internal alarm clock started ringing in my head. And I had to always remind myself that I'm not in prison anymore. 3:30, I don't care. I'm not in prison no more. But it took time. And how I was able to break that cycle is that I started finding time, and I humbly asked my family members to give me space. Give your loved ones space after incarceration. Allow them to just have a moment of peace to themselves. Because like I said, for 22 years for me, your loved one may have been in prison for 5, 10 years, 6 years, and the majority of their time in prison was surrounded by a group of people that the noise, they never really, peace and quiet in prison only came like 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you're on lockup, if you like have done something inside of the prison, they place you on lockup, then you never really have peace. So just being able to allow them just to hear the sound of freedom is therapeutic for them. Just let your loved one hear the sound of freedom, where they don't hear over the loudspeaker, count time, officer so-and-so report to this. Prison is always loud. So that is my tip to supporting your loved one after incarceration. Tip number 2 is to give them space. Give them space to just acclimate back, to get used to being around no one. Give them the peace. Even if you see them shut the bathroom door, don't panic. They're okay. Give them a little bit of time just to process freedom all over again. And I believe that once they're able to process that freedom, it helps them in their transition, makes it more success. They'll become more successful in their transition out of prison, because they're given that time to change and adjust, make the adjustments. Just give them some time. I thank you all for tuning into this series of how to support your loved one after incarceration. This is tip number 2. Give them some space. Please go to my YouTube channel, Path to Redemption.org. Path to Redemption on YouTube, and be able to hear the entire video. Or you can actually go to my website, Path to Redemption.org. Go there. And, just log in, subscribe to our newsletter, where we send out monthly newsletter, just giving words of encouragement to families who have loved ones that are incarcerated. Even if you're formerly incarcerated, go and subscribe to our newsletter so you can get some words of wisdom and motivation that will help you continue in your journey of reentry. With that being said, I thank you all for tuning in to another episode of how to support your loved one after incarceration. You guys be blessed.